thanks again for having me. I'm going to share a little bit about climate mitigation, really. In my mind, climate mitigation is the reduction of emissions to prevent climate change from getting more drastic than we've already acknowledged that it is. Climate mitigation can also, I believe, be an adaptation in that it increases resilience, in that it reduces your reliance on energy from alternative or from different sources, from the grid. It allows you to be more resilient to extreme weather and things like that. So I believe that mitigation and adaptation should really go hand in hand. We've talked a lot about adaptation this morning, and I think it was really interesting what Julie had told us with respect to how Muskoka is using their asset management plan to renew their assets to be better adapted to the future climate that we're expecting. And my story is very similar, actually, how we're using asset management planning, life cycle renewal of the assets to increase their climate mitigation, to reduce their energy use, to reduce their emissions, and actually to save the municipality money. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. So quick background I'll offer you today on what we're doing in Markham. Ontario Regulation 507/18, which is the broader public sector energy and emissions reporting. And then I'll talk about how we're integrating these things, energy efficiency minimum requirements, into our life cycle asset renewal program, how we do it, some worked examples, and also looking forward, and then a bit of a call to action. I think that I'd like to empower you. Excuse me, my phone's ringing. I'd like to empower you to go back and become climate mitigation champions in your own organization. You're already climate adaptation champions, I believe. So, for Markham, we have a municipal energy plan, and this was adopted by council in 2018, and it has the objective of net zero energy emissions by 2050. We have 3 guiding principles: decrease overall local energy consumption, switch to low carbon renewable sources, and increase local energy generation from renewable sources. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring down our energy consumption, we're going to move to renewables, and then we're going to remove or try to produce as much of that energy as we can within our own municipality. That makes us more resilient to things like extreme weather, grid disruptions, things like that. Our community had a little over 1,700,000 tons of GHG emitted. So that's 1.7 megatons of GHG on our 2011 baseline. And we built that baseline collecting all the utility consumption data, plus all the gas sales and fuel sales in the city of Markham for that year. We're working on setting up a regular update. If we were to look at what our emissions reduction curve will look like, we will have a bit of a flat line, and this is probably going to extend a bit because, you know, things don't always go according to plan, this flat line, but we're working hard to turn this curve down. You have to turn this curve down pretty hard, particularly be moving really fast by 2030. So objective of 45% reduction by 2030. And we'll have a small amount of emissions remaining in our energy mix, largely from fossil fuel fired electricity generation that's going to remain in the system. And here's an example project. Some of you may have heard of this. We had a great opportunity to work with Enwave and Mattamy to establish a 300 plus community scale geothermal or GExchange district energy system in Markham that has gone on sale. About 100 of the homes have already sold in their release set, and it should have a very significant reduction in emissions for those homes. So a very exciting project for us. Corporate energy management, this is what you guys are really interested in. What are we doing for our own corporation? So in 2018, according to our last report, and we're catching up, we had a bit of a lull through COVID with some staff that had departed but are now back. We had 12,000 tons of GHG emissions. So you can see that our corporate emissions, and that's from our own operations, so our fleet, our buildings, our assets, this is what our emissions were. 12,000, so pretty small compared to our overall city emissions. And our community is almost 360,000 people, fairly focused on office and high tech, not too much manufacturing or heavy industry in our economic development mix. So our 2014 corporate energy management plan, and this is required by the province. You need to do this every 5 years. This was our first one. We're into our second one. So our reporting back was we had 6 million cumulative utility avoided costs. from our conservation measures. $2 million a year of utilities have been saved, and that builds every year because we do new projects, so it gets higher, but that's our current $2 million a year. 1.2 million incentives gained and capital deployed. And that's partially from our embedded energy manager, and then also from each project, we focus on what are the incentives available in order to improve the business case. The results are a 14% per capita GHG reduction for the corporation's emissions. Markham is a fast-growing community. We will probably nearly double between now and 2051, what our new projections are. We're looking at probably a 23% increase up until 2030 or 2040. So fast-growing, a little different than Muskoka. So we are looking at what the per capita GHG reduction is. Net reduction of the overall is very hard for a fast-growing community like ourselves. But if we can make it smaller for each incremental resident that we're adding, then we're getting ahead. Our objective is to get towards net zero, to get net zero ready as much as possible. We have 2.1 megawatts of rooftop solar that funds $300,000 a year. So that's the revenue that it brings in typically for us. And we use that to invest in a revolving energy fund that pays for our annual capital project for energy efficiency in the facilities, and also funds some staff. And we can use it to fund additional items as necessary that support community or corporate climate initiatives. We have annual reporting embedded in for sustainability embedded in our annual report, and you can look that up at markham.ca. And some of the awards related to energy and sustainability that we've picked up recently include Canada's Greenest Employer, the 2018 Energy Manager of the Year for Most Innovative Project. That one made me really excited. I was really proud of the team that pulled that off. And then we're at milestones 3 for both corporate and community with respect to the FCM, Partners in Climate Protection, PCP. Getting a little warm here, so I'm going to drop my jacket. So the background for OREG 50718, not that different than 58817, broader public sector energy reporting and conservation plans. So that means that your organization, and you probably know this, I hope. If you don't, go find those people. They need to be your friends now. Asset managers should be friends with energy managers. I very, very much feel that that's important. Annually, you would be reporting to the province and publishing publicly your annual energy use and emissions for your facility operations per this OREG. You also will have a 5-year plan, and you should be in your second iteration of the 5-year plan. And this hits all of the broader public sector, so mush everybody, and it has a near 87% compliance. You know, the quote below could be attributed to Peter Drucker or another management guru, but if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. And as far as energy goes, and I think we realize that with respect to asset management, it's really important to have the good data and understand what you've got, where you're going, what your trends are, and where you can focus for the best value, for the best outcomes. So a little context for us. Overall, per our 2018 data set for our 2019 asset management plan, and we're on track. We're probably going to be finishing up in September of this year. We're going to take a little more time. We're not going to take the whole year that the province has given us, but thankfully they have. I think COVID made everything a little slower for everybody, so it's nice to catch your breath. So our overall asset value is 9.6 billion. You can see how it slices out there. Most of it is in water and wastewater and stormwater, almost 3/4 of it. Facilities is almost $1 billion at 900,000 a year, or 900 million, excuse me. And that's largely my responsibility for the above ground assets and the major capital delivery of the capital planning for those. Typically, we invest about $107 million a year on our assets to maintain in good condition. And we spend about 10% of that on the facilities. And here's an interesting point. We think we probably influence the spending at about 25 to 30%. So we've got our hands on HVAC replacement. We've got our hands on lighting replacements, building automation replacements. We think that in order to move to net zero, we want to move that to 40 to 50% influencing. So we're going to start influencing the building envelope, so the doors, the windows, the insulation, and the roofing. And thankfully, a lot of that work happens inside my team. So I'm really able to give direction and make that change on the fly. Markham is very much a do and then plan organization. So we try it out. We are rather entrepreneurial and innovative. We try, fail sometimes, try. And then when it becomes something that is really working for us, we'll take the time, we'll document it down, perhaps as required by provincial regulations, and make a plan out of it. But we are lucky in that we have a 25 or 26 year life cycle investment reserve revolving. So we actually have the next 25 years of our assets already funded. That makes us pretty special, I understand, amongst municipalities. It's a very good fiscal measure. I heard Muskoka mention that they have a shortfall. We don't typically have a shortfall. So we're able to keep our assets at a fairly high level of quality, which is really good for us. And it means that we have a little bit of extra so we can play with improving the efficiency, improving the climate change mitigation of these assets. So some of the ways that we go about doing that, when we're undertaking new construction, just get a drink of tap water, and major renovations, we look at a couple of different things. So I think a number of you may be aware that Markham has its own district energy company, Markham District Energy. And when we construct in their service areas, so they have 3 service areas or 2 service areas, we connect our buildings to them. Right away, we get almost a 50% improvement in emissions impacts because they run centralized large boiler and chiller plants. So much, much more efficient. So we're connecting to the district energy systems. We probably have, I don't know, 10 buildings on the district energy system. They have over 10 million square feet of customer area that are in their service area. So it's a big business. There's probably over $100 million invested in their infrastructure in their business alone. We follow LEED Silver targeting for new construction. So our community centers that we're constructing, we've built quite a few, 4 over the last 5 to 10 years because our community is growing so quickly. And we target LEED Silver, but the last one actually looks like we're going to be achieving LEED Gold, which is pretty exciting. It'll have a 300 kilowatt rooftop array for solar on top of it, and as well as a number of energy efficiency measures and environmental measures. So we set a target of having energy efficiency and sustainability minimum requirements were specified for new construction and major renovation beyond code. One of the other things we're doing is we're acknowledging that sometimes the business case, and in particular for solar right now, because there's no feed-in tariff, is not that great. So we're taking steps to make sure that our facilities are solar ready and electric vehicle ready. If you make that work, you do that work during construction, it's a lot cheaper to deploy later. And really that means is putting in the adequate structural components in the roofing, making sure that there's space or chase or conduits for your connectivity of your power lines and things like that to the solar or to the EV charger. And then also ensuring that there's space in the electrical room or mechanical room for the equipment that's necessary. NRCan has a really great solar ready guideline. It's more applicable for residential. And in fact, we've asked our developers to be following that, and they've agreed. But there's some really great resources in there that if you're constructing a building and you don't quite think you want to go solar right now, but you want to make it solar ready, you can follow that. So existing building equipment replacement, we had no policies in place, but when we're doing the life cycle asset renewal, we realized that, and we have a specific energy manager, and she identified this pretty early on in collaborating with her clients, because we take a customer service approach with respect to energy. So we try to make it easy for you. And she was diving into our capital plans for the current year that are going to council, and she goes through and looks at, okay, where's there's HVAC, that burns a lot of energy, heating and electricity, or gas and electricity. Where's our lighting systems? Can I get in there? Can I convince these guys? Can I provide support to the facility operators to update their systems to make them more energy efficient? And that's been very successful for us, and I'll show you some examples in a little bit. So we did set a framework. It does follow ASHRAE 90.1. And it was to establish the minimum energy efficiency requirements for existing buildings. So when we're undertaking these energy projects and how we go about helping the facility operators, and Markham has a bit of a hybrid model. My team operates our admin buildings, Recreation operates their own buildings, and then we help everybody else with major capital. So it's a little all over the place, but we get our hands into everything. So one of the things with respect to energy that we want to do is we want to provide guidance and training on life cycles. So every year, we have a kickoff in January for our life cycle planning. Okay, this is the plan, this is the schedule. These are some of the changes that finance wants to see. These are some of the changes that we need to see from an asset management perspective. And then we also offer them training on energy efficiency so that they can use that lens and look at what kind of projects they've got and they can understand. And then they know to come to us and look for help. And so we also review the capital forms, but then we evaluate the energy efficiency options and develop business cases. So we'll estimate the savings. We'll look at what the incentives are. We'll do the analysis, and we set a corporate energy rate on an annual basis based on what we expect electricity and natural gas to cost us and what the ROI of simple payback will be. We'll look at the large scale projects, and sometimes our large retrofits, they have maybe a 3-year work back from when they get delivered. And the first year is with a study. So we want to make sure that we get in with that team and that they're using energy as a lens as part of their study. And then we'll do the business case for the high efficiency equipment in the capital budget forms. And here's an interesting thing. We often find that there's enough money in the reserve to get the higher efficiency equipment, even though we had intended to put like for like, which is usually a medium efficiency equipment, because we're still evolving this. We haven't touched everything. We've only been at it for about 5 years. So we provide guidance and assistance, developing the scope. Sometimes we'll deliver it. Sometimes we'll help with assisting the contractors and consultants. We'll lead or support and apply for the incentives. We'll do BAS design, building automation system design and maintenance. For those of you that don't know, building automation is like your Google Home or your smart thermostat, but for the entire building, networked, connected, so that they can run all the HVAC systems. And in fact, what we're doing now is we're integrating in our energy management. So we're tracking, we're monitoring, we're creating trending, and we're using that for maintenance diagnostics and analysis and targeting energy projects. We'll provide additional funding, and this is where I talked about the revolving fund. So if a project does come and it needs, say, another 10 or 20K to get the higher efficiency, we'll kick that money in from a separate project budget that's from not the same as the life cycle. Then we'll provide support through the project, and then we'll do monitoring and verification of the energy savings in order to get the incentives that are necessary. And we'll even help write the staff award report that goes to council for the project. So some of the case studies where we've applied this successfully include our community center, Milliken Mills, which is currently, I believe, a vaccination center for York Region. High efficiency rooftop unit, RTU, had an incremental payback of 5 years. So when we looked at this, and it was a 25 ton, so it's a good size. These are just a couple of graphs that show the seasonal energy efficiency for cooling. And as you move up in SEER, and you may do this at home, you'll see that your savings go up. And same thing with furnaces or boilers. As you move up in the efficiency, your savings increase as well. So what we saw was we had a life cycle budget of 42K. Oh, did not mean to do that. Of 62K. Standard efficiency would have cost us $42,000. A high efficiency unit cost us $50,000. So when you look at the annual savings was about $1,000 a year. This isn't a big amount, but every little bit, in particular when it comes to natural gas consumption, is really important. And we have an evolutionary approach. And sometimes we go revolutionary, but right now it's evolutionary. Every little bit, we're trying to get more and more efficient, reduce our overall energy use. Then we'll look at switching fuels. Our incentive was $3,000. And when you look at it, so we had a difference of $8,000. We had a savings, we had an incentives. That brings it down to a 5-year payback for getting the more expensive unit. Easy, easy, easy case to sell to our finance. In fact, they love it because that goes straight to the bottom line of reducing the utility costs of the corporation. So I hope you're really seeing that you are able to achieve better efficiency, reduce your emissions, and save your corporation money through an approach like this. Lighting is even better. And I think we've probably done all 10 or 12 of our arenas at this point. And you can see, so this is Markham Village Community Center. It's just a small single rink, really. And the previous LED or the previous HID lighting that we had in there. And then this is the LED lighting. And usually what we're able to do when we do LED lighting, not only are we able to improve the lighting quality, the lights strike a lot faster so they can turn them off a lot more. And the maintenance is like significantly reduced. Like, you know, LED lighting is an easy decision. If you haven't made those decisions yet in your organization, LED lighting, the technology is so good, so stable, so well warranted. You can pick your color of light if you want. You should be deploying those. So we did 50 arena lights. We had 51,000 in the life cycle budget. The high efficiency lighting, and I mean, look, we saved money actually on what we anticipated this would cost us. High efficiency LED lighting cost us $22,000 and an annual energy savings of 11,000. So our payback was 2 years. I think we've expressed that properly. This may have been actually the increment. I'll have to check with my team. But nonetheless, you could see that even if we had to spend a little bit extra, the savings was gangbusters on the electricity use for an LED lighting, and you reduce your maintenance and you increase your quality, and the users love it, as do the operators. So looking forward, what we're going to be trying to do with this program is continue to increase staffing capacity, literacy, and capabilities. And one of the neat things that we've really found effective for this is a Battle of the Buildings challenge, where you get the operators kind of competing against each other to see what they can find as energy savings. And that really gets the juices going on that kind of team. And they really enjoy, we give them pizza lunches when they win. They really enjoy that. We're going to expand our focus to include projects on GHG emissions. Previously, because we were part of the Embedded Energy Management Program out of the IESO, the Independent Electricity System Operator, we were very electricity focused. But now we've grown beyond that, and we're actually now funding our energy manager internally. We're now going to look at GHG emissions. And to do that, you know, I think we're all aware that the current tax for GHG emissions in Canada, set by the federal government and recently confirmed by the Supreme Court of Canada, is $50 a ton. That's going to grow to $170 a ton of GHGs by 2030. So we're going to start using $170 a ton in our business cases now, because the assets that we're deploying now are likely going to be living far beyond 2030. They're going to be here in 9 years. They're going to be here in 20 years. They may be here in 25 years. So you want to really think about expressing it in that terms to your councils and to your senior leaders in your organizations. We're going to continue to improve our monitoring and verification, and we're going to reevaluate what our building standards are and performance metrics. We currently have a pilot going on where we're studying what the opportunities are for net zero facilities in a kind of head-to-head competition with a few of our fire stations. So a call to action for you folks. I want you to seek out opportunities to understand emissions in your organization. Go find your energy managers, go find your facility people, or go find your finance people that have your utility bills and understand what that is. I think it's really important to put an accurate price on energy. So every year we set our cost per kilowatt hours. I think we're probably sitting at about 16 cents a kilowatt hour as part of our corporate. And we use that for our facility budgeting purposes, and we also use that for our business cases. Set the same for your natural gas rates and your water rates as well, because water can be saved as well. And a forward-looking one, so I'm recommending $170 a ton for carbon in your organization, and start using them in your business cases. Build new assets that are net zero ready, so efficient, renewable, and smart. Solar ready, EV ready. They have some smarts in them. They have network capable in them. You know, think ahead. What are the things that you think are going to be technology trends that you want to be ready for, even if you don't have the business case impetus to move forward from your council now? And those are pretty low cost things that you can do, but they save you a lot of time and money in the future if you change your minds. Change your old assets during recapitalization to move toward net zero, to use less energy. I gotta move my screen for a second. Be smarter, and to shift away from fossil fuels. And then monitor, report, engage, and continuously improve. That's what I think you guys, the participants that are listening today, should try to take away from this.